Hey, seasoners, and welcome back to another installment of My First Season. I had the pleasure of working with my guest today during the 2004-2005 Dream Team season with Hendel in Cancun, and he is the 11th guest from that season to be on the podcast. His first season was in Club Med Cancun in 2003 as a snorkeling, sailing, and windsurfing geo. He is from Virginia, but has been living in beautiful Australia since 2006. He went to the University of Colorado and studied linguistics and French. He never spoke French to me in Cancun, but we'll get into that. He speaks 12 languages. That can't be right. Yes, 12 languages. Okay, you can bet old Greg Hanna is going to quiz him on some of those languages. He also attended the University of Melbourne for primary education and is now a teacher. Please help me give a very warm welcome to the one and only Joseph Ramsey. Hey, Joseph, how are you, sir?
Swan, good. How are you doing?
Oh, you remembered my nickname. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I do have a funny joke about my nickname. I just can't repeat it here, like why it's called Swan. I had two answers, the real one and then the funny one. So I don't think
I don't think I've heard either of those.
Are you telling me all those times talking to you at the sailing shack? I didn't say, oh God, I must have. Okay.
No, I don't think you did.
I will remind you when we stop recording. Okay. Sorry, listeners. Okay.
I don't think it would have slipped my mind, but yeah, I can't wait to.
I'd be breaking my rule if I said why. Okay. Well, so thank you. So you're American. You've been in Australia for a while now, right? I'd say since 2006. We said
2006. Yes, and unfortunately, my accent is kind of stuck halfway in between. So if I say anything that sounds a bit too Australian, I apologize.
Yes. So for the lucky people that got to work with Joseph, he's every second or third word is going to sound Aussie. So just keep in mind he's been living in that beautiful country since 2000. He's gonna say words like dodgy, and stuff like that. But that's okay. We'll translate those words. Nah. Yeah. All right. Where to begin? Well, I'm curious. All right. So we know you're from Virginia. Now, yep. When did you find out you had an affinity for languages?
I started learning French when I was 5 years old, and I was quite the dork. And I remember.
Okay, excuse me one second. You already dropped something interesting. Now, why French at 5? Most kids are like playing, with their slinky. How come you got so interested in French at 5 years old?
I went to a school and they taught French from 5 years old.
Really?
And, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know it was not particularly stereotypically American, but it was available, so I took it and I took to it like duck to water. I just loved it.
Did we speak French in Cancun to each other? I mean, you knew us from Montreal, or did we not?
Yeah, I don't think so. Would have. Okay. I often got sent. I had to go to all of the French apéro evenings, and I had to do the French the welcomes where you went to the airport and the buses and all that. And I always had to do the French stuff.
Okay, well, this is what I like about the podcast. It gets a chance to catch up, and the questions I probably should have asked you when we had literally nothing to do at the beach because there was no wind.
Yeah,
didn't come up. I guess we were doing a push-up contest or something. I don't know, something intellectual like that.
I think it was backgammon back then.
Oh, I never played it. I think you were playing that with Sardine, the dancing machine, possibly, because I never learned how to play backgammon.
Oh God, hours at the beach doing that.
Okay, so you graduate now. I guess you told me that you went to Club Med Eleuthera at 9 years old and then Cancun at 13, correct? As a GM?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and did you ever think though, like when you were in the teen club, like, hey, I'd like to do this as a job someday, or that was too soon?
No. I remember when I left Cancun, I said I want to do this one day. Weirdly enough, my sister had the exact same thought. So my sister was actually a GO as well a couple of years before me.
Oh, was she? What did she do?
She was in the boutique, and she worked in Sandpiper, and then again in Cancun.
Oh, really? I guess after Sandpiper, she was begging to go to a singles village, huh?
Oh, yeah. I think she had fun in Sandpiper because she didn't last. I think she only did one season in Cancun and did not particularly enjoy it. So she left Club Med shortly after that.
Okay. I didn't know that either. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And you learned to sail in Virginia, right?
Yeah. I grew up on a big lake And so we went sailing a lot, and then I went to sailing camp every summer for a while and sailed with my grandparents. And yeah, again, I never thought I would have be able to do it in Club Med. I thought I'd need some big permit or license or something like they do in France, but no.
And which lake in Virginia was that?
Smith Mountain Lake, it's called.
Oh, interesting, interesting. And you're from Lynchburg, Virginia, right?
Yeehaw.
Okay, and dummies like me automatically bring up whiskey, and you have to remind them that's in Tennessee.
No,
Right?
that's in Tennessee. Yeah, this is
Okay.
this one's not quite so famous, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, there's you, right?
I don't know if I can.
We got you out of Lynchburg, right?
That's true. Yeah, I don't know if I count, but I'll put it on the map.
Okay, so at what point, like we know your first season in 2003 Cancun, but what made you want to apply finally?
I graduated college, and some friends of mine convinced me to move to New Zealand. I got to New Zealand, and I didn't really like it. And I know everyone kind of gasps at that, but it wasn't.
Yes, why?
No. It just wasn't what I thought it would be. I moved to a really small town, and it was. I was living in this tiny little town, and I thought it would be very like I was in university still, and have lots of friends and people my age, and that was just not the case. And it wasn't really what I wanted. And so I left New Zealand after about 4 or 5 months and came to Australia. And I spent 4 or 5 months backpacking around Australia. And then I got home and I was just kind of floundering. And I just said, I need to do something. And I wasn't quite ready to get a real job. And so that's when I decided to apply.
Okay. And now, where was your interview?
Beautiful Newark, New Jersey.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you have to like fly there on your own dime for this?
Drove up. Drove up, and yeah, it was about I think it was like a 7 or 8 hour drive.
Oh my God, really? You
Yeah,
drove
I
from
was
Virginia to New Jersey? New Jersey?
I was pretty bored.
Okay, all right. Must have made some good mixtapes for that road trip. Okay.
Oh, good old mixtapes. I think they were mixed CDs back in the day.
Okay. Oops, I'm dating myself. Where did you? So when you get there, do you recall who gave you your interview, or was 2003 just too long ago?
I think it was Amy Washburn.
Okay. Now, did you tell her you wanted to be sailing, windsurfing, or snorkeling, Geo, or that's where they put you?
I said the sports team after talking to my sister. She sort of pushed me to go towards the sports team, and I thought that'd be awesome. But to be honest, I was quite happy to do anything because I knew once you get to resort, you can chop and change ever so slightly. So I just said I'd like to do the sports team. I think you got to do a preference. So I think I did sports and then reception and then I think maybe excursions. That's my preference. Yeah, I went through the whole interview process and I got a call a couple of weeks later and they said, "Oh, we want you to be a snorkeling geo." It's like, okay, that's strange. I've never expressed any interest in that, but yeah, sure, no dramas. But then I said, "Oh, you need to become a lifeguard first." I said, "What? Excuse me?" So I actually had to go and do this 3-day crash course to be a lifeguard to go
Really?
and teach snort. Yeah, yeah. It was
Was this a
it was
Mexican law or was it a Club Med thing? Because I did sailing, snorkeling in 97, 98, and I wasn't a lifeguard.
yeah. I don't know why they made me do it. It was really strange because especially because they had lifeguards on the beach, anyways.
Okay.
So
And you did
yeah,
this
no,
course in 3 days?
I did it in 3 days. I wouldn't trust me to save anybody's life, but yeah, technically
Okay.
I did it.
All right. And you get there and I guess fast forward a bit. I mean, Gus from Australia. So you're in Australia now. Your first chief of village is Australian, and you were probably
Yeah.
never thinking that you'd be living in Australia one day. So I find that interesting. Okay. So tell me, what do you remember about do you remember the first day arriving? Do you remember that first week?
I do. I do. I flew in and I got picked up at the airport, and the person that got picked up at the airport, I was the only GO, but there was the guy coming in to do the CPR training for everyone on the sports team. Him and I got picked up, and I got dropped off to the village. And the first person I saw was the chief of sports, Nicole Cooper.
Oh yeah,
And
really? Nicole was your chief of
yeah,
sports? Oh,
she
cool.
was my first chief of sports. I started chatting to her, and then I actually forgot the name of it, but who was the person who's responsible for the integration of the geos? It was
Oh, the was that like the IGO or something they called them? Like,
IGO. That's it, IGO.
Okay.
Uh, the IGO came up, and it was this Brazilian guy called Nando. He was looking through my CV, and he says, "Oh, you speak Portuguese? I said, yeah, I do. And he rapid fired Portuguese at me for the next 3 hours. I was like, oh, okay, time to sink or swim. And yeah, it was a very interesting first day.
You carried your CV with you?
He had it. He
Oh,
was looking
okay.
at, or maybe my, I don't remember what it was, but they had some sort of information thing on me about where I was from, languages I spoke, what I was going to do. Yeah, I don't remember. It was
And
he had a
when you
paper. I do
and
remember
when
that.
and when you were riding in the cab with the guy who was about to teach CPR, did you brag how you don't need it because you just did a lifeguard coach
I
stash
did.
in 3 days?
I I did say that, and he said, "Tough, you're doing it anyways." I was like, "Okay,
Okay.
I will do that, no problem."
All right. So you meet Gus, you meet Nicole Cooper, your chief of sports. They stick you at so snorkeling. I guess was in the same area when we were there in 2004, right? I mean, it was
Correct.
right
Yep.
off the main road.
Yep.
And did you what would you think of it now that I mean it's funny because the last time you were in Cancun, you were a teen club. Now you're a GO. Did that cross your mind?
Yeah, it did. It's funny. I remember being at Club Med as a GM and just really enjoying it, but I didn't remember any of the particulars. Like I didn't remember where anything was, or what the restaurant looked like, or what the snorkeling looked like. And it was like I was there again for the very first time.
Okay. And so how long roughly were you in Cancun? Like how many months?
I was in Cancun for I think about 14 months the first time around, and then I came back for another year
14
later on.
months. Okay,
Yeah.
14 months. Do you have any interesting stories or anecdotes or anything weird happen on a snorkeling trip? Someone throw up in the water? I don't know.
Well, no, I only lasted at snorkeling for about 4 weeks, and then I got transferred over to windsurfing and sailing.
Oh,
Probably the
did you?
most embarrassing thing was we accidentally left a windsurfer, a windsurfing GM, in the water after we closed up for the day, and we didn't realize, which was really embarrassing.
But then
the
you found them.
Well,
You
weirdly
brought
enough,
them.
we he actually found us. So I don't know if you remember, but remember how they had the little boats that go out the front of where the snorkeling shack is?
Yeah.
They did like a little tour from the other resorts in Cancun, and this windsurfer actually drifted out to the opening of the lagoon, and one of those little boats actually picked him up and dragged him back around through the lagoon on his windsurfer to the back of the resort right by the restaurant. And he actually, I saw him getting pulled in. I was like, God, what is this? He jumped off and he was wild, furious. But yeah, we managed to smooth things over. It was fine, but it was quite embarrassing that.
All right. And so when this GM, who was a little irked, when he calmed down, so did you like approach him, smooth it over, take him to the bar,
Oh yeah, yeah.
drink?
We met up at the bar. We met up at the bar later, and needless to say that he left a happy camper in the end. He had some good customer service.
Okay, great, great. Because I mean, these things could have gone another way, so this is a happy ending, which I like.
Oh, oh
So
yeah. No,
okay,
I'm very happy that it didn't end in tears. That's for sure.
I take it he was a beginner windsurfer though, too, right? I'm guessing.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
much so.
Got it.
After that, I did. It was a very valuable lesson. I did learn to be a little bit more vigilant after that.
Yeah, you probably like quadrupled the count that you normally did, right? Like what?
Yeah,
How or
that
counted the
that
boards, right? Yeah,
that's a mistake you only make once.
that's right. Exactly. So what else? What else happened that Cancun season? Did you
Um,
find Gus like
I
very
actually,
very talented and funny like we all do who got to work with him like with the
yeah, Gus
violin
was
and the
great.
didgeridoo? Okay.
Yeah, Gus was great. I actually forgot about the violin, so you mentioned that. I do remember his little dog Sonora that he rescued when he was at Sonora Bay that
Oh,
followed him
okay.
around everywhere. Yeah, he had this dog that hated everybody except for Gus. He wouldn't let anyone else pet him. And
Oh, really? Okay.
funny story. Gus actually got he took the dog with him to Crested Butte, and then he was flying home to Australia to do his last season at Lindemann. And back then, dogs had to be in quarantine for I think it was a month when they
Yes.
arrived in Australia.
Yes,
And they
we
had to
learned
go
that
through all
from
these
the
shots and all this.
we learned that from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard fiasco in Australia. Yes. Okay.
Well, it's
Sorry.
actually changed now. Now it's only like a
Oh.
week.
Oh,
It's not so
really?
bad anymore. Yeah, it's
Okay.
not quite as bad. But anyway, he takes his dog home, does all the things he has to do, and it's quite an expensive procedure. And he was all set to take his dog to Lindemann. And then I think he was actually about to board the plane, and he found out. I don't know how he found out, but Lindeman Island is actually a national park, and you
Yes.
can't have any domesticated animals in national parks anywhere in Australia.
Yep.
So he had to leave. I think he left it with his parents or something. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, he had to leave his poor little dog at home.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was in Lindeman, I wanted a parrot my whole life, and they're like $60. Okay, like in Montreal, they're like 5,000, right? So
Oh wow!
even though there's sulfur crested cockatoos everywhere on Lindeman Island, I wasn't allowed to like say buy one in Mackay or Hamilton and bring it over. So that was my
Gosh,
one chance to own a cheap parrot. Okay.
do you know? Funnily enough, I actually used to want one really, really badly, and then I moved to Australia, and they are quite loud. I
Yes,
don't know if
yes.
I could actually handle having one in my house.
Yes,
The
they
screech, it sounds like a pterodactyl. I've never
yeah,
quite gotten used to it.
they're all in the trees. There's 100 of them in the trees, and they're just squawking at you, right? Okay.
Oh, I have to tell you, I actually ended up going to Lincoln Island a few years ago. I was on a sailing trip in the Whitsundays, and
Really?
we pulled off at the front of Lindeman, and it's like a ghost resort now. And it was
Yes.
really cool to be able to wander around, and I would have loved to work there. It was really pretty.
Oh, it was the best. It was the best.
Yeah, that hill was really intense, though. It's I couldn't imagine doing that all the time.
Oh, oh, you climbed it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah, lots of snakes when I was there you had to watch out for. But of course, as you know, the seven deadly of anything like is in Australia, right? Like this
Do you know,
snakes.
I've lived here for almost 18 years, and I've seen three snakes in 18 years.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, because when as a North American who went to Australia, I mean, I only went for a year. Now, I'm just curious if they tell this to all North Americans or it was just me. When you got there, and let me say it was your first rainy night, did all your friends, Aussie friends, warn you to Joseph? I know you're going to want to, but don't lick the cane toads. Did anyone say that to you? This is a true
No.
story. This is a true story.
Why would you lick a cane toad? That's
Well,
disgusting.
because then I'd say, "What are you talking about?" They go, "Greg, we know you're going to want to." I go, "Just explain." Because it secretes a toxin and it gives you a high. So if you lick the cane toad, you get the secretion, right, and it gives you a buzz. But it doesn't always go the right way, right? Some people overlick, I guess.
Yeah.
So okay, so no one said that to
Hmm.
you.
No, weirdly enough, I've never gotten the urge to lick a toad.
Well, neither did I, but when they kept telling me not to, all of a sudden, I
Oh,
want to I want to lick that toad now. Okay.
they inceptioned you, did they?
Yes,
No, I
they did. Okay.
my my sister and my brother-in-law used to live in Queensland, and I remember the first time I went up to go visit them, the cane toads came out, and it was my first time because we don't have them in Melbourne. But I was up there, and they come out and they're pests, and they get in the dog bowls and they kill dogs, and it's actually quite bad. And my brother-in-law took a cricket bat and popped about seven in the backyard, and I remember being a bit
Oh, gross.
worried and
Okay.
scared for my safety.
Okay. Yeah, that
Yeah, it's
cricket
quite
bat has
brutal.
a lot of uses in Australia. I see. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's the home deterrent system, criminal deterrent system, I guess.
Well, speaking of Australia, what are the odds? You're probably the only guy I know that works. His first two seasons have two Australian chief of villages. I don't know the odds on this. I'm sure it's pretty high. So your next season, you go to Ixtapa in 2004 with Joey Templin, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's that like? Yeah, did you like Ixtapa, like a family village after singles miss, or you on the
No.
beach?
So Ixtapa is awesome, and I actually so backing up when I was leaving Cancun. So Hendel was my chief of village. So Gus was there for the first 5 6 months, and then Hendel came in, and Hendel was still there when you and I worked together. And Hendel came to see me after 14 months and said, "All right, it's affectation time." And I was like, "Oh, goody, where am I going?" And he said, "You're going to Paradise Island." And I thought, and I remember not being very excited. And I really, really fell in love with Mexico, and I really wanted to stay in Mexico or somewhere where I could speak Spanish. And I said, "Oh, thanks, Hendel. That's awesome, but any chance I can stay in Mexico or maybe go to Punta Cana or something like that?" He's like, "Leave it with me." And it was actually really cool. Went off and sent me to Ixtapa. I had a great time, but Ixtapa in the summertime has absolutely zero wind. So I was a sailing geo when we'd have weeks on end where there would not be a breath of wind. So not quite as much fun. And yeah, after being in a singles village, the family villages are just a little bit different, just a little bit quieter and calmer, and not quite the buzz that Cancun had.
Well, yeah, I've heard that about Ixtapa. Yeah, the lack of wind. So it's kind of ironic that they offer when they offered at the time sailing and windsurfing. Yeah.
Yeah, I never quite got it, but no, it was fun. The beach was really big. I ended up having to drag the boats back and forth a couple times a day, and ended up got a bit more in shape, which was nice. But
So
yeah,
since you,
no, it was. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, since you worked for two Aussie Chiefs back to back, what was it? Was there a difference between both?
I didn't get to know because when I first got to Cancun, I was a very new geo, and I was, in awe of Chief of Village. They're my big boss. Ooh, so I didn't actually have a lot to do with Gus, but I got to know Joey Templin really quite well, actually. So him and I were closer friends. But Joey was great. He was awesome. Weirdly enough, Joey actually came to my wedding a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
We've remained friends ever since.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah. But he lives up in Sydney. So yeah, I used to go to Sydney all the time and I'd see him fairly regularly and it was yeah, nice. So yeah, him and I were great friends. So I definitely got to know him better.
And how many months roughly were you at Ixtapa?
I was at Stopper for 6 months, I think. 5 or 6
Okay.
months.
5 or 6 months.
And yeah. And then I left Ixtapa and I don't know. After that, I thought I wanted to take a break from Clemed and go get a real job again. And I moved to Seattle for about 4 months and was miserable. And I actually called Hendel, begging him to let me come back to Cancun. And he said, "Yeah, okay, you can come back." So he ended up taking me back to Cancun.
All right, and that's where we met.
That's where we met. Yeah.
Okay, so since you had only done, I guess, 2 seasons before that, I'm just curious. Since you're the 11th guest from that season, I find that there's like, of my 10 years in Club Med, there's 3 seasons that really stand out, and that's one of them. So did you feel that at the time or when you left that there was a lot of talent on that team? I just want to know if I'm crazy or making it up. What did you feel
No,
about that team that
that
he assembled?
was that was an amazing season. I had such a good time. It was just so much fun. Yeah, but there was I've actually been since you and I spoke last week about doing this. I've been racking my brain and trying to go through all my stories and whatnot. And I actually
Yes.
find that because I did 4 seasons in Cancun, that they all blur together. So I'm sitting here. I've actually pulled out some pictures to sort of jog my memory, and I'm like, I can't remember. I remember all the people from Cancun, but I'm like, did I work with that person and that person together, or was it a separate time? But yeah, I
Well,
can't. I can't quite keep
I'm
the
assuming
timeline
you
straight in my mind.
yeah, I'm assuming you met James Martin at this season, or did you know James before?
No, so James was actually in Cancun for my first season.
He was. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's funny. James and I worked at Cancun for my first year. Him and I worked together for the entire time. Then he actually went to Ixtapa as well, and he was my chief of sailing at Ixtapa. And then he was actually sailing Geo when I came back to Cancun. So him and I
How
worked together for almost the entire time.
what's it like working for James Martin?
Fun.
Okay,
We
yeah.
had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did, right?
Yeah, we
He's got
had
a
a lot of
very
fun.
very dry sense of humor, right? About James.
Yeah, he does. I still remember his dance moves. I will never forget those.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he oh, we love you.
Yeah,
James, if you're listening, we love you. Okay.
yeah. I actually listened to his podcast yesterday. I didn't know that he was your second guest.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved his Jimmy Carter story too.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Well, it's funny. It actually made me wish I'd gone to Crested Butte. So I don't know if I told you, but I Gus, after he left Cancun, he was going to Crested Butte, and I was having lunch one day with this Brazilian family, and I was sitting there talking Portuguese to this Brazilian family, and Gus is walking by doing his rounds of the restaurant as he does. And he stops and he goes, "Wait a minute, you speak Portuguese?" I was like, "Yeah, I do actually." He goes, "Oh, okay." And he turns to the family and goes, "Does he really?" And they said, "Yeah." And he goes off. And the next day, Nicole Cooper, my chief of sport, comes up to me. She goes, "Joseph, I've had a word to Gus, and how would you feel about going to Crested Butte and being a reception geo?" I was like, "Oh, Gus, I actually just left Colorado. I just left the snow, and I've just arrived in Cancun. I don't really want to. But now that I missed it and it closed, I would have really loved to experience that winter village feeling."
Yeah, no, exactly. It's true. I never wanted to go there. Being from Montreal, I hate snow, but you hear about how much fun people had at Copper Mountain and Crested Butte, right? Like it's a
Yeah,
special,
right.
it was a special time in their lives. So yeah, I feel you would have had to take me kicking and screaming, but I'm sure at the end of that season I would have loved it, right?
Oh, exactly. You never in Europe. You never got a chance to go to a winter village or anything.
No, no, they always thank you, Clement. No, they always sent me to the beach. Okay.
Ah,
but
not too bad,
uh
not too
but
shabby.
but even before this podcast, I knew people loved like really loved their time at Copper and Crested. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, like I
so
said, I wish I'd gone, but yeah, no.
yeah. Okay, you brought up Portuguese again. So in your
Mm.
intro, I said that you speak 12 languages. This seems rather impossible, but I want to give you the benefit of the doubt because I'm kind of mad at myself. I didn't ask you this question when I knew you. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
how it never came up. So how does one go from learning French to like picking up all these other ones?
So I'm a big dork. Is the real easy answer.
Okay.
No, ever since I was a kid, I just found languages fascinating. So when I say I speak 12 languages, I do have a bit of a confession to make. So I speak, apart from English, three really, really, really well. So I
Like,
speak French, Portuguese, and Spanish. I
mhm.
speak really well. And then after that, my German, Italian, and my Mandarin are good, really, really good. But there are lots of situations I could get myself into that I would be like, oh, I have no idea what's going on here. And then after that, I've got my other languages where I'm very useful, but I couldn't, do like a tour in these languages or anything like that. I
Yeah.
couldn't read a book, but like I can go to these countries and do whatever I need to do.
Okay. Now, of all the languages you mentioned, I speak a little of, not your level, a little of, but I must say when I spent a year in Asia, of the three main Asian languages that were in Ria Bintan, so Japanese, Korean, Mandarin was by far the hardest language I've ever heard, and to learn. If you get a tone wrong, or on a word, they look at you like they don't understand you. So would you agree that Mandarin is one of the hardest languages to learn?
It is really, really hard, but weirdly enough, my Achilles heel is Japanese. My Japanese is
Really?
terrible.
Japanese
It's really
is
weird,
so easy
man.
to learn.
Everyone says that, but Mandarin I found really, really, really easy. But and the weird thing with Japanese is my brother-in-law lived in Japan for 20 years. My sister-in-law is Japanese. I have two nephews who they speak English, but they not very well, and their predominant language is Japanese. So I've been surrounded by it for 20 years, and it just never stuck. Weirdly enough,
Okay. Oh yeah, that is odd
it,
because yeah,
it's kind of embarrassing.
for you don't hear too many Westerners like, speaking Mandarin fluently. Sure, I see them on TikTok all the time, but there are not many of them, out there that go into a restaurant and can order, and then the whole restaurant turns and looks at them like, what? So have you ever got that reaction?
It actually just happened to me recently. Not from the Chinese, but I was on holiday and my brother-in-law was talking to this lady, this Chinese lady in Mandarin, and my brother-in-law looks at me and he goes, What is that?" I'm just talking to this lady. He goes, "You actually speak Chinese?" I go, "Yeah, I actually do." So no, it's actually really funny. Whenever a lot of my really close friends, even my husband, when I say I speak these languages, they're like, yeah, yeah, whatever. They don't quite believe me. And then when I find myself in a situation where I actually have to speak them, they're like, wait, you actually do? And I go, yeah, I actually do. I'm not lying. We ended up traveling around Europe for a while, and we arrived in Italy, and I was organizing train tickets in Italian. And my husband comes to me and goes, you, I didn't know you even spoke Italian. Yeah, yeah, I do. And yeah, it's a very common reaction.
All right. Well, yeah, I could keep talking about this, but I know the listeners are going to kill me if I don't keep asking you about Cancun. So sorry, listeners, for the sidetrack. I like
Oh,
languages too.
sorry.
So we're gonna ask Joseph if he has a favorite memory from that time, that season in Cancun. I
Look,
know.
I had. It's really hard. It's really hard, but it's the coolest thing I can ever, and I'm sure other listeners can sort of relate to this. Is I had so much fun that it's really hard to. I've got like
Well,
these awesome
also,
memory. I've got these awesome
yes.
memories, but it's not like a really awesome stories. But
No,
I
no, no.
remember
Yes.
going
Going to,
to
sorry, just before you say, but I am
yeah,
like, I did tell Joseph that the stories have to be appropriate. So I know I'm hamstringing a lot of guests when I say that. So I know you must have a really funny one. So yes, I would like to hear,
yeah.
I would like to hear your most appropriate one. So that's on me. Okay. That's on me. You don't go after Joseph, go after me. Okay. Sorry, Joseph, continue.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, when you said you kept the mail clean, and I was just like, oh, I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. There goes
clean
50% of
mem
my stories.
the clean memories don't stand out quite as much. But
True.
I remember
True.
going to bed every night in Cancun, just so excited for the next day. I couldn't wait to wake up. I'd be like, I don't want to sleep. I just want to wake up and do this day all over again. I had so much fun. All the people were amazing. I remember that season, Gus had a bunch of Brazilians that were there, and it made me eat chicken hearts for the first time, which was just
Oh
disgusting. But
we're
apparently that's
back.
it.
We're on the 2003. Sorry, I meant the 2004, 2005 Handel season. Sorry.
Ah, yeah. No, sorry.
Well, wait. Let me
Yeah,
ask
no.
before you answer. What was your favorite nightclub in Cancun? Mine was Cocobongo. Did you have a favorite one?
Yes. So we used to take the GMs to Daddy Rocks and Daddy O's,
Yes.
which was fine. They were great, whatever. But there was a club upstairs called VIP Lounge, and for some reason they opened early for us, or I don't know what it was, but we'd have this whole club to ourselves, and I had so much fun in there. It was yeah, I loved going out to the bars and clubs in Cancun. It was just awesome.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember that one. I did not know you were a VIP, but that tracks.
Oh,
Definitely
you
tracks.
know, you gotta. It's not what you know; it's who you know.
That's right. That's right. So I guess you and Hendel got on like a house on fire. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, yeah. For the most part, again, I've always with the predominant most of the chief villages, I always was a little bit not starstruck, but like, oh, they're my boss, and I always sort of hung back a little bit. The only chief village I ever got particularly close to was Joey, but yeah, Hendel and I we worked really well together, and yeah,
Well,
very
when did
very nice guy.
you so did you leave around like April, May 2005? Do you recall?
Yeah. So the my last season, so I had actually decided before I went back to Club Cancun with Hendel, I'd actually decided to come to Australia. But I had to because I was going to go to university here, and the way the school year worked is I'd actually just missed the cutoff to start school that year. So I had to wait an entire year for the next intake. So I was going to finish up my season in Cancun and come to Australia in February to start uni. And it's November, I had a day off. I was down in Plaza Las Americas doing some shopping, and I get back to the village at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they said, "Oh, that's it. Everyone's day off is cancelled. There's a hurricane coming." And everyone who's been to Club Med has had hurricane parties and hurricane stories. And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, whatever." And they said, "No, no, no. There's a really bad Category 5 hurricane heading towards Cancun." I was like, "Ooh." But looking at it, it's like a bright blue sky, no waves, no nothing. I thought, yeah, whatever. It'll just be a blip like all the others. Closing the entire village up and putting tape over the windows and all that sort of stuff. We had to dismantle all the boats and take them up to the theater. And we woke up the next morning, and hurricane had arrived, and we actually ended up getting evacuated for 2 weeks to a little hotel near Chichen Itza. And when we went back to the resort, it was demolished, absolutely demolished. It was really, really bad. And I had 3 months left before I started uni, and I said, I'm not going back to Virginia and sitting around my parents' house and working like a waiting job or something like that. So I said, I'll take anything, whatever you can do, please, just get me somewhere for 3 months. And they sent me to Sandpiper as a mini club GO for 3 months.
Well, let's back up a bit. Okay, so you were there. Okay, so you were there after I left. So you were at that hurricane that effectively closed it as a singles resort, and when it reopened, it was family.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, Hurricane Wilma, 2005.
Wilma. All right, let me ask you something, because I always loved Hendel's meetings. Now, I just want to know if you recall this certain Geo meeting. At one point, nearing the end, people started going crazy with nicknames. So people who never had a nickname wanted a nickname on their badge. And it got so out of hand that Hendel kind of had to put a stop to it gently. And I remember him doing a Geo meeting to make fun and slightly exaggerate the names. He's going, guys, you got to stop the nicknames. I'll give you an example. Hey, Hey, Joe, have you seen Muchas Gracias? Oh, yeah, he's right over there talking to Por Favor. That was the funniest thing I've heard Chief Village say in my
I,
life. Okay. I rolling on the
I,
ground. Do you remember this meeting?
I do remember this meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh man, so you were okay. So you were there for that hurricane that effectively ended the
Yeah.
single life in Cancun. Oh wow, okay. So
Yeah, we were there for that.
so you get to Sandpiper in 2005. Tom Keidel is your chief of village and mini club. So what's that like going from sports team to mini club?
Look, I wouldn't. I don't think I would have stuck around in Club Med for quite as long as I did had that been what I was going to do.
Yes.
But it was fun, and because I was coming to Australia to be a school teacher, I was like, oh, this is good actually practice for me. So I kind of used it as a bit of a learning curve. But yeah, I didn't. It was fun. It was interesting, and I
Okay.
enjoyed the people. But it was yeah, I wouldn't have done it again.
Well, no, but we all know like we shudder when the mini club walks by. Like you shudder because we know we would never want their job. Like it's hard. It's not that we know what you're doing is tough and we couldn't do it. It's really a compliment. Like like I never same as you. I never, but you actually did it. But I was, but
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't do it. Because the patience that
Oh,
they
I
have to
remember
have.
day two. The chief of mini club put me with the babies. I think you could do for 9 months or something like that, and I had to change a
Oh
diaper.
God. Oh God. Okay.
And it was my very first time. I've never changed a diaper before in my life, and I was like,
Me
I
neither.
don't even know what to. I don't know what to do. And my chief of mini club, she basically had to teach me how to do it. She was telling me, take the onesie off and yada yada yada. And this kid had diarrheaed up his entire back to the top of his head.
Oh God.
And I just remember dry reaching and gagging. And I was just trying really hard to pass this kid off. And my chief of mini club was like, no, 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 no. You have to learn. You have to learn. And yeah, I did it. But it was really bad.
And that right there is why I never did it.
Yep. No, it was funnily enough, that was the worst one. So after that, everything got a little bit easier.
Okay. Well, you knew you were. I'm well curious. You said you knew already you wanted to go, to the University of Melbourne. So, so now since you're American, this makes you an international student, correct?
Correct.
Was
I
it
was.
was it very expensive? Like, I mean, the Aussie dollar time, like, because I know I work in a university now, so I see how much international students pays, but I don't know from America to Australia if it's that much of a
Uh,
difference in terms of tuition.
well, because talking to Australians, I paid a fortune because I think
Okay.
my same degree for Australians was like $3,000 or something like that.
Oh, is it?
But
Okay. Okay.
but the degree that I got in Australia was cheaper than the degree I got in the States. So
Okay. Got
it
it.
was less expensive to come here than it was to live in the States.
So when you got there, and even though you speak English, okay, did you find that, I don't know, some professors had a thicker accent than most? And were you struggling in any courses
Oh,
because of the
it
accent?
took me it took me about 3 months of living here until I was pretty sure I knew what was going on. And like I said, I've been here it's been 18 years now in February. And probably once every 2 or 3 months, I'll hear a word that I've never heard before. Come on, guys, you're serious. You're making fun of me. You're taking the mickey. And they're like, no, no, that's an actual word. One I heard the other week was allergy. I'm like, what's allergy? And they're like, oh, it's a cold. And I go, that's not a word. And they go, yes, it is. And I'll, ask multiple people, and they go, oh, yeah, it's this. And I go, well, how have I not heard this before?
Is it short for allergy? Because you know how they shorten everything in Australia, like auditorium is odd. So is that the allergy from possibly allergy or no?
You're a smart man. It's just one. I actually don't
Okay.
know.
Oh, okay.
I've never made that connection before. I'm
Oh,
going to
okay.
find out later. Actually, I'll let you know.
Okay. They do like to shorten things. Okay. All right. So what's it like
Uh,
being a teacher? Like, so I think you do, what your age is 5 to 13-year-olds. Is that what you teach?
I teach 5 to 13-year-olds, and I teach French, which is interesting. Australians aren't known for their affinity for languages, and I live kind of in the middle of nowhere, not the middle of nowhere, about an hour and a half outside of Melbourne. Kids here are not particularly interested in learning languages, but yeah, it's still fun.
God,
It's
what's
still
it
fun.
like? What's
It's
it like hearing a 13-year-old with an Aussie accent speak French? It must be so cute, no?
Oh, it's pretty grating actually.
Okay, because I'm assuming the Aussie accent overpowers the beautiful French language, right? Okay.
Bonjour, Monsieur Ramsey. Oh, that's Southern. See, look, I just went Southern. I'm
Okay.
actually
Yeah, yeah.
stuck now. I can't. I don't sound American anymore. I don't sound Australian. And if you say sound Australian, I can't. If
Well,
you say
yeah, but
sound American, I
it's
can't.
hard. It's hard. I don't even think I could. I spent a year in Australia. I don't think I could do an Aussie speaking French. It's too hard. It's two totally different accents. I couldn't do it either. Like I'm thinking about it, and it's not even the words aren't even coming out.
Not
I
computing. No.
I did hear a Southern guy speak Hebrew when I was in Israel, and that was hysterical. Okay, ma
Wow.
nishma, ma nishma. Oh yeah, yeah. It was hysterical. But I was just
Oh,
curious.
that
You
reminds
know,
me of James's French. Did you ever hear? Sorry, James.
yeah, those sailing regatta explanations in French took quite a while. No, just kidding, James.
Oh, do you remember? I don't know if you remember, but remember when Sardine first arrived in Cancun and the guy
Oh,
spoke absolutely zero English, and
yes.
within the first like 4 days, we made him learn a script and how to give a windsurfing in lesson in English.
Yes. And let's not forget, like James, because next to Sardines dancing, James is John Travolta, because we quickly forgot about James when we saw, if you recall, Sardine the dancing machine doing crazy signs. That was nobody knew what was happening. Do you recall his first time when he unveiled that? Do you recall? Like no one knew what he was doing.
No,
He was doing his
what
own
is he
thing.
doing?
I've never, I couldn't even explain what it was, but he was doing, no one, he was doing his own thing, dance like no one was watching, and everyone was mystified. Like, and then, then his legend slowly grew, right? Because then he kept doing it. But no, no, no. James is John Travolta next to Sardine, I
Oh,
thought.
yeah. No, I don't actually remember Sardine's dancing maneuvers.
I can still
I don't
picture
remember
it.
that.
He was doing whatever the move was. He'd do his own thing, and some people would get annoyed, like on the mic, like, dude, you're supposed to bottom beret here, like, oh no, no,
I
he would
actually
just,
do remember that.
he do this weird thing with his arms, oh, like he was playing a piano at arm's length. I don't know, man. Look,
Yeah, that's an,
he heard something. He was moved by the music. Hey,
I do remember that. I
okay.
actually have got an amazing, my favorite crazy sign memory of all time.
Oh yeah,
It was actually your buddy Joker.
yes.
He was on the microphone. He was about to leave. He was leaving Cancun to go somewhere, and it was his last night. And
Yeah, yes,
he actually had
that was our last. Yeah, mine and Joker's was the same last night. That was an epic last night, by the way. But yes,
well,
we
it was an epic last day apparently because
yes, I have
do
videos
you
on
remember that?
YouTube. I have videos of on YouTube on yes, they're all there. It started very early. I just came back from water skiing, and Joker opened my door at 10 o'clock a.m. He said, "It's on," and it's on. Then that means
But
you had to start imbibing. Okay.
yes, but I have never witnessed. He had clearly imbibed quite a lot,
A little
and
bit. Yeah.
it was quite apparent. But I have never seen someone hold it together for crazy signs like he did. It was
Yes.
just amazing. He was
Yes.
giving instructions in French and English, and just it was just
Yeah,
amazing.
and then we
I
did
was
the
thoroughly
big,
impressed.
yeah, then we did the big Chippendales night after that. So that was
Oh
yeah, because
God,
of our last
yes,
night.
I
So
do.
even I was usually the MC, but I said, you know what, for the fans, I'm going to give them one. No, just kidding. No, but I did decide to do a little number there. Just to it was the
I
last
do
night, right?
remember that. Yeah, I
Okay.
remember the chip and I'd actually forgotten about that. This is good. I'm remembering all these funny memories now. I do remember the Chippendales.
Well, Joseph, you might not remember this, but it was a slow beach day, and we
We
were
had a few of
gathered
those,
by
didn't we?
yes, we were gathered by, it was like me, you, Nathan, James, and we were gathered by the photos that they took of, here's your beach team. And you had a color, 8x10 headshot for some stupid reason, Greg, the dummy that I am, to break the ice, or it was a boring day. I said, Joseph, if you had your choice, gun to the head, which one of these guys on the board would you date? And you very, yeah, diplomatically, I think left or refused to answer. Okay. I might have used a different
Yeah.
word than date, mind you. Okay. This was 2005. And, someone might have like gasped, and I'm sure James thought it was him. Okay. So again, Joseph did not answer this question, but do you remember this?
I do remember this. Yes.
Okay, okay. Now, did you think what a jerk for asking me that? Were you
Oh,
horrified?
you
Because if
made.
you were, I want to apologize now if you were, because I didn't mean anything.
Oh,
Okay.
nah, nah. You made me blush, Swan. You really, you
I
made me
do, I
blush.
do, I do remember you blushing, and I thought then I felt bad, like, oh God, no, like what
Oh,
did you idiot, Greg? What did you do? Okay, because I don't think
no,
you were expecting that, right? And like to
no. It was definitely
okay,
caught me on a left field. That's for sure.
okay. So I felt bad at any rate, so I wanted to apologize all these later, but I did mean no harm. I was just being Greg, like hey,
Well, well, now it's my turn to make you blush because you know who it was, don't you?
it was James, wasn't it?
It was you.
Are you serious?
There we go.
Okay. Oh, I can't
Yeah,
wait to
yeah.
I can't wait to rub this in his face. Uh, not figuratively. No, I'm seriously.
Oh.
Oh, okay, no, okay. Sorry, bad button. Okay, all right, okay. Thank God, because we've been fighting. James and I have been fighting about this for arguing about this for years. Okay, sorry, James. Okay.
Yeah. No, sorry, James. And at
How
that
about-
point, I'd worked with James for like 5 or 6 seasons. So
okay.
James was like a brother to me at that point.
Well, I wasn't great. In my defense, I was in great shape in that season. So I must say, like
You were, you
we
were.
did we did a lot of pull-ups that season, like on the beach and push-ups. So
I do remember you actually installed the pull-up bar.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I do
The
remember
back is
that.
the
I actually
back
got
is as important as the front, right? As they say. Something like
that. It is. That it
that. Okay.
is.
All right.
Oh
Okay.
God, wouldn't it be great to be that young again? My body, the older
Yes.
I get, my body's falling apart, and it's
Yes.
just not what it used to be. I remember just the stamina we used to have. I remember getting up in the morning and going for a run or going to the gym, and then on the beach pulling boats and swimming, and then crazy signs at lunch and water volleyball, and then
Yeah.
more beach, and
Yeah. Let me ask, does
then
this happen to you now? Someone goes, it's Tuesday. Hey, Joseph, we're going for drinks after work. And you're like, oh my God, it's Tuesday. Do you do this now?
no, I'm not even on a
No.
Friday anymore.
But if someone were
Yeah,
to suggest drinks on a Tuesday, would you be like horrified? Like me, because in Club Med every day was Tuesday. Like, oh, it doesn't matter, we're drinking. So does this happen now where someone invites you like on a work night and you're like, it's a
well,
work night?
well, in my defense, I am Australian now, and they definitely enjoy a cold beverage every now and again. So I'm in good company. But
True.
no, more for me now, it's more time. If you want me to be out past 8, that's not happening.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I can't personally drink after like 5 anymore. So because I don't sleep as it is. So but speaking of drinking, do you have a favorite Aussie beer?
I've actually become a bit of a wino in my old age.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
where I live now is it's a place called the Mornington Peninsula, and like it's about an hour and a bit outside of Melbourne. And I moved down here because at the time it was the only place I could afford a house, and I didn't know it, but it's actually one of the top wine producing regions in this country, and I have made it my mission to try almost every single wine.
Oh,
Doing a pretty good
even
job so far.
even Goon. I bet you're impressed. I know
Oh,
about Goon, aren't you?
I am impressed. About Goon. Goon is actually weird enough. It's actually becoming a bit fancy down here.
Well, did you ever play that? I saw a video. Have you ever played that game Goon where they tie the box of Goon to a clothesline and they spin it and it goes round and round, and then whoever it hits on the head has to chug it? Am I getting this right?
Something like that. No, thankfully I missed that. My friends when I came here were a little bit more
Oh, okay. Upper
dignified than
crust. Okay.
that.
Okay.
But yeah, no,
Okay.
I definitely do remember that. I've heard of it, but I've
Okay.
never had the chance
Okay.
of seeing it.
Okay.
But
Wait.
so
Another Club Ed question. Do you have? I have this recurring dream about Club Ed. Do you have them or not at all?
oh,
Like, are
I
you
haven't had one in a while,
okay?
but I would say it's probably been about 5 years since I've had one. But it used to happen probably 3 or 4 times a year, where I would have this dream that I just decided to pack my life in and go back to Club Med, and I'd find myself there, and going about and doing all the stuff again. And yeah, it was a strange dream. I remember I used to wake up and be like, did I actually do that? Is that what I need to do with my life? Am I going back to Club Med? Because I will say,
Okay.
when I first came to Australia, I actually thought about going back to Club Med a little bit, and yeah, it ended up fizzling out very quickly. But I wasn't sure that I was done with my time at Club Med when I left.
Well, that's interesting because mine, I'm always back there working. So I'm like, I've gone back in time. Like I've gone back to a village I worked at, and you're actually leaving everything and going back to work. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was. I always thought that I would have liked to kind of stick it out a little bit more and see some more resorts and all that, but can't change it now.
Yeah. All right, Joseph. We're nearing the end of our time, but before I go, I'd like to know that if there's someone that you enjoyed working with, or some, GOs, chief of service, whatever, like that you really had a great time with in your time in Clement.
Oh, there's heaps and heaps and heaps, but kind of a small list. Obviously, James and I worked together for pretty much my entire time at Club Med, and yeah, James was awesome. There was, do you remember Pascal?
Uh,
Pascal
what did he
Lagania?
What did he do?
Uh, Pascal, she was a what do you call it? Water ski geo.
That name
She's
sounds
from
familiar. Yeah.
she actually ended up marrying an Australian, Shannon, and they live just outside of Montreal.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Her and I had her, James and I, and Parker. We had an amazing time.
Parker
Um,
Burke.
Parker Burke, yeah. I actually saw Parker. I worked with Parker the season where he met his wife. And
Oh,
his wife and I were actually really. She was a mini club geo, and her and I were actually quite close. And I ended up seeing them in 2012, and I was in Chicago. And yeah, she was pregnant with their first child, and um,
nice.
yeah, so them. And then, actually, do you remember? Did you ever work with the Brazilian Rodrigo?
Yes, Rodrigo
Yeah,
Barreto, right? Yeah, in Cancun.
yeah,
Yeah, one of the
yeah. Weirdly enough,
best looking geos I've ever seen. Yeah, no, hands down. Yes,
tell me about it.
one
Yeah,
of the
well,
best looking.
Rodrigo. Weirdly enough, Rodrigo actually lives like an hour and a half away from me now. He ended up marrying an Australian, and then yeah, lives in Melbourne.
Oh my God, what a small world.
I know it's quite strange. And there's another tennis geo called Isabel, who's Belgian, but I actually saw her last year. She lives in Switzerland, and I was in France, and I popped into Switzerland and had lunch with her, and it was awesome. It was really cool to connect with her on like a completely different continent, and that was awesome. No, but yeah, there's so many names and so many people that I had just such an amazing time with. Like, yeah, I could sit here and name names all day.
No, I know, and don't send him angry emails, folks. Okay, there's too numerous
Oh,
to mention. Okay.
well, like I said last night, I was getting a bit nostalgic. My poor husband, I put on crazy signs, and he was like, "Can you stop?" I was like, "No." Feeling very nostalgic, and I went and pulled out all my old pictures, and I've actually got this really cool picture of us on a sail, a bunch of my really good geo friends on a sailboat over to Isla Mujeres, and I just, yeah, it was just
Well, great.
such
I
amazing
hope
time.
you send me some of those so I can post them along with your episode.
Will do.
Uh, all right, now since you've been out of Club Ed for some time, is there some one thing you miss about it, or are there three things? Have you ever thought about it, like to narrow it down?
Yeah, yeah. I miss one of the things I miss about Cancun the most is I miss the windsurfing. When I was in Cancun, I really got into my windsurfing, and it was really convenient. You know, you stumble out of bed, you roll to the beach, and then you got everything there, and off you go. When I came to Australia, I took up kiteboarding, and kiteboarding, I'd have to get in my car, drive to the beach, and set everything up. And it was actually quite a procedure, and
Oh
I
yeah.
just missed. I missed being able to just having all of that just there, and I
Yes.
guess sort of like having the active lifestyle, and it was just unreal. I miss Another thing I miss is having all of the different languages around. Like I was born to do Club Med. You know, I miss. I've got this one really distinct memory. I was sitting in Sandro, this Brazilian guy's room, and him and I were having a chat in Portuguese. And then a French friend of ours walked in, and then we switched to French. And then an Australian walked in, and then we all switched to English. And it was just that constant change and back and forth that I absolutely loved. This is a weird one, but one of the things I miss about Club Med the most was every week was different. You know, I missed that excitement and like, oh, it's a big arrivals day tomorrow. Who's going to be? What's this week going to be like? Who's going to come? Is it going to be someone famous? Is it going to be someone that I fall in love with? What's it going to be like? I missed that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with all of those, what you just said. Yeah, especially I always say that, yeah, like if you're a windsurfer or a kite surfer, the equipment's just there. It's somebody already put it together. It's on the beach and you go, right? Now you got to schlep everything everywhere, right? I mean, and by the time you're ready,
Yeah,
the wind's probably died down, right? By the time you get out there. So yeah, you're
such
right.
a procedure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do
especially
miss that.
kite surfing, getting those lines ready, straightening out your line. Oh yeah. But did you find
Oh,
that? Just a quick question. Did you find that? Because I'm pretty sure I know the answer to learning. Okay, so we all know how long it takes to learn windsurfing, but did you find that learning kite surfing was a lot quicker?
it was quicker. I actually didn't like kite surfing.
Oh no. Oh
I
okay.
found so with no with windsurfing, the more wind, the better. That sounds stupid, but you just couldn't. I couldn't go fast enough. I just wanted. It was you always wanted more and more and more and more. With kite surfing, I always found that I was constantly having to bleed a bunch of speed off because you've got this giant sail, and it just felt a little bit out of control. I never
Yeah.
felt really safe.
Yeah, well, it's so far, yeah, and it's so far from you. Whereas you're harnessed into your sail basically in windsurfing, right? Like that's what I do like about windsurfing. You're really close to it. Whereas, yes, it's one wrong turn in kite surf. When I got to Israel, the first thing I saw when I got to the beach was a kid that wiped out and took out all the parasols on the beach and broke his arm. Like this is like my first day in Israel, which was a very known
Yeah.
kite
Well,
surfing beach, so
well,
very
it,
easy to get hurt. Yeah.
well, it doesn't also help that when I was kite surfing, I live on this giant bay, and the water's freezing pretty
Oh,
much all year round, and it's right by this massive busy road. So one kind of wrong move will have me thrown into traffic.
that's right. Yeah. with your board shorts. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really want to get slammed by a car on that day.
Yeah. Well, Joseph, man, this has been so great to catch up with you.
No,
I'm
it has
so
been great.
happy we reconnected, and you're in my favorite country in the world. On top of that, you're one of my favorite people, and so kind of you to share your story with us here
No,
today.
thank you for having me. This has been awesome. I have actually really enjoyed, even in the lead up to this, just going back through all my old club memories, and I'm just looking at them now and just smiling. It's been great.
So I'll leave it to you. You can tell James it was me and not him if you want, or I could do it. It's totally up to you. Whatever you want, because we've been arguing about this since 2005. So I'll leave it up to you.
I'll,
Okay.
I'll break his heart.
Or we can wait till this airs and I'll just send him the link and say, hey, at time mark, 57 minutes, listen to this.
Yes, do
Okay,
that. Do that.
okay, let's do that. Okay. All right. And yeah, so please send me a lot of those pictures so people that don't know you can see, all the fun we had in Cancun and your
Will
other
do. Will
villages.
do.
All right. And my last call, did we get it all? I don't want to leave or you leave without, if we forgot something. Did we get it?
We got it, yeah. Like I said, I wished I had some funnier stories, but like I said, it was just I had
That's
such an amazing time over that time.
that's my fault. No, Joseph does have a funny one. I just can't say it. We did a pause before and it was hilarious, but I'm sorry. No.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
no,
I will
no,
tell him
no.
what I will tell him what my swan nickname is after, folks. So, I'm sorry I can't
You will
share it
have
with
to
you,
do
but
that.
once we stop recording, I will tell him that. But so here's where we say goodbye to our listeners, Joseph. So if you want to say goodbye to the people that you worked with and that, people that listen, please take it away, sir.
Oh, well, yeah. Thank you guys very much. I thank you for being part of my Club Med journey, and yeah, hope to catch up with some more of my Club Med friends very soon. So until then, see you later.
That was the one and only Joseph Ramsey from Virginia, now living in Australia. And we'll see you all next week with another new installment of my first season. Bye.
Bye.